A great afternoon to the students. Let us have the session on strategic human resource management. Before I move into the points which we are going to cover today, I thought let us move forward and try to understand the points which we have discussed in the last lecture. Dear students, if you remember, in the last session, we tried to understand what are those factors which has enhanced the significance of human resource planning. तुम्हाला आठवत असेल मागच्या लेक्चरमध्ये आपण केलेत आणि जवळजवळ we tried to cover 7 different points which we discussed, made us understand that yes, human resource planning is having a greater significance in the organization. If you look at the points which we discussed in the last lecture, we tried to understand what is called as competitive business environment, wherein we came across a term poaching, wherein people try to find out the best talent and take it from the competitors environment. We also tried to analyze how Indian economy is moving from a manufactured economy to a service-based economy, and when the service-based economy is dominating, there are various changes which will come into picture, and as an HRP or human resource manager, we should use it in terms of HRP. Then we also tried to understand technological advancements and which played a very important role in enhancing the significance of human resource planning. Similarly, we also looked into what is knowledge economy and how knowledge workers are to be handled in a very different way. And this also made us understand that yes, knowledge economy also would be contributing for significance of HRP. Similarly, we tried to cover the role of increase in productivity and its impact on enhancing the significance of HRP. Also, we concluded with the two last parameters or factors like labor market changes and government legislation and regulations. What I mean to say is, मला सांगायचं आहे, हे factors will be applicable whether the firm is national or whether firm is global or international. म्हणजे फर्मचा प्रेझन्स कुठे असो, तो कदाचित फक्त डोमेस्टिक कंट्रीमध्ये असेल किंवा इंटरनॅशनल कंटेक्स्टमध्ये असले, हे सगळे फॅक्टर्स किंवा फोर्सेस ऍक्टिव्हेट होतात, त्याच्यामुळे ह्युमन रिसोर्स प्लॅनिंगचा रोल खूप महत्वाचा आहे. As we try to understand that from this picture, it is absolutely clear that how these factors have enhanced the significance of human resource planning. Let us try to look human resource planning from two different perspectives in the next slide. The two different perspectives which we are going to study today are macro HRP and micro HRP. And finally, we will also try to understand what are the objectives of HRP. मी आता जसं तुम्हाला सांगितलं, irrespective of what type of firm it is, ती नॅशनल फर्म असो किंवा ग्लोबल फर्म असो, हे सगळे ह्युमन रिसोर्स इश्यूज will arise in the new environmental trends, are bound to arise in the new environmental trends. त्यामुळे human resource planning should be viewed from two perspectives. That is, one, it should be looked from the macro perspective, and the second, it should be looked from the micro perspective also. Similarly, we will try to understand what are the objectives of HRP. Let us try to understand that. डायग्राम मध्ये एकदम सिंपल वेनी देण्याचा प्रयत्न केलाय की मॅक्रो एचआरपी काय कॉन्सन्ट्रेट करते, मायक्रो एचआरपी मध्ये काय येतं आणि ह्युमन रिसोर्स प्लॅनिंग काय आहे. वी ऑलरेडी हॅव डिस्कस्ड दॅट व्हॉट इज एचआरपी and the definition again to be repeated. HRP is the process of analyzing and identifying the need for and availability of human resource for a firm, an industry, a country, or at a global level is what is called as human resource planning. It means we need to plan with respect to what is the requirement of human resource. That is what is called as HRP. Moving forwards towards macro HRP. What does micro HRP refers to? This is the word which I'm trying to put into. Macro HRP refers to assessing and forecasting the demand for availability of skills at national or global level. Look at the words. Forecasting, assessing, forecasting, fine. Demand is okay. For what? For availability of skills which is at national level or global level. What does it mean? It means it takes into consideration the industrial and economic growth of the country. It also considers industry shift, and moreover, it will also look at what is the changing nature of the jobs in a particularly in the nation or globally. But HRP काय करतं? HRP seeks to tend or predict what kind of skills will be required by the industry in the future. And it will not only tell what is required in the future, it will also try to compare this with what is or will be available in the country. आज काय आहे आणि उद्या काय लागणार ह्याची assessment depending on the skill is carried out by macro HRP. Let us try to put that into a very, very simple example. आपण दरवेळेस म्हणतो IT industry has achieved a high sales growth, and this IT industry is having a very good profit growth also. So what is going to happen if IT industry is growing in sales, IT industry is generating huge profit? What is going to happen is most IT firms will predict more growth in the future years to come. What does it mean? It means in future we would require many people to work in that particular sector. But the problem here is the fear of workforce would be shortage because of lack of availability of skilled manpower and of a high attrition rate. मॅक्रो HRP मध्ये आपल्याला काय स्किल्सची लोक लागतात हे आयडेंटिफाय करायचं, हे ऍसेस आणि फोरकास्ट करायचे. त्याच्यामुळे आयटी इंडस्ट्रीचं एक एक्झाम्पल दिलं. आयटी इंडस्ट्री कंटिन्युअसली ग्रो करते. आयटी इंडस्ट्री ग्रो करते म्हणजे कंपनी ग्रो करेल. जर कंपनी ग्रो करत असेल तर कंपनीला इमॅजिन करा जर अशीच ग्रोथ राहिली तर इट विल रिक्वायर मोर नंबर ऑफ पीपल. डज our country have the requisite number of IT people available? If not, how it will create a gap is what we can identify when we take an example of IT industry, or when we take an example of what skill set would be required in future with IT engineer. अशी एक सेक्टर नाहीये. एक अजून एक सेक्टरचा एक्झाम्पल देतो. फॅशन डिझायनरचा सेक्टर घेतला आपण. जनरली इंडियाची रिक्वायरमेंट जवळजवळ 10 ते 15,000 फॅशन डिझायनर वर्षाला लागतात. About there is an institute of National Institute of Design Ahmedabad. त्याच्यामध्ये जेवढे मुलं तिथं शिकले जातात त्यांच्या प्लेसमेंटचे चान्सेस खूप जास्त आहेत. Why? Because there are only 128 students which are graduating from that institute. What does it shows? It shows that requirement is 10 to 15,000 employees or designers, and National Institute of Design is having only 128, requirement 15,000. The number of groomed people available with skill set is 128. What does it clearly suggest? That in future it is going to create a shortage for fashion designer. Means what is the conclusion? Fashion designers च shortage होतंय. याचा अर्थ more design schools need to be set up in the country. If they are created, if they are set up, then only there could be a bridge can be created which will take care of this demand and supply. म्हणजे फॅशन इंडस्ट्री मध्ये तोच प्रॉब्लेम, आयटी सेक्टर मध्ये तोच प्रॉब्लेम. What I mean to say is, if a gap between skills required and skills and available is anticipated, macro HRP seeks to bridge the gap between professional and technical courses in college and university. ह्युमन रिसोर्स प्लॅनिंगचा सगळ्यात मोठा रोल इथंच येतो. अवेलेबिलिटी काय आहे, रिक्वायर्ड काय आहे, ह्याच्यामध्ये गॅप क्रिएट झाला. तो गॅप फुलफिल करायचा कसा, कुठून करायचा, कसा केला जाऊ शकतो, दॅट इज व्हॉट वी नीड टू अंडरस्टँड इन टर्म्स ऑफ मॅक्रो HRP. लेट अस टेक एन एक्झाम्पल नाव. एक इंडियन फर्म जर इंटरनॅशनली किंवा इंटरनॅशनल लेवलला कॉम्पिट करायला लागली, जस्ट इमॅजिन there has to be a skill transfer which will take place in industries. Now this skill transfer, if it is uniform, macro HRP would have a major role to play. In these scenarios where availability and demand mismatch होतोय, gap create होतोय, मग ही जबाबदारी कोणाची बनते? फॅशन डिझायनर कमी आहेत, आयटी स्किल वाले लोक कमी आहेत, मॅन्युफॅक्चरिंग मध्ये लोक काम करणारी रिक्वायर्ड स्किल सेटची लोक आहेत पण रिक्वायर्ड स्किल सेटची लोक नाही आहेत. मग पुढे जाऊन काय करायचं? कंट्री लाईक इंडिया, they should think of making policymakers having the responsibility to ensure that educational institutes as per the requirement of the skill set should be geared up. ज्याची रिक्वायरमेंट आहे त्या हिशोबाने एज्युकेशनल इन्स्टिट्यूट क्रिएट व्हायला हवं, परमिशन मिळायला हवं. त्याच्याने काय होईल की प्रेझेंट अँड फ्युचर डिमांड्स ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री कॅन बी टेकन केअर ऑफ. Educational programs that can focus on training that has to be thought of. Then the potential workforce in the skill will be required in the different industries. Just imagine हे फुलफिल करण्यासाठी आपल्याला किती वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारच्या गोष्टी कराव्या लागतील. That is what we need to identify. Dear students, please hold on. I have an important call. Just hold on for a second. Just hold on for a second. Yes. What I was trying to put into is in a very simple way की जर आपण मॅक्रो HRP बघितलं तर मॅक्रो HRP काय क्रिएट करायचा प्रयत्न करते की पुढे जाऊन कोणत्या स्किल सेटला डिमांड असू शकतो आणि त्या स्किल सेटच्या अगेन्स्ट आपल्याकडे काय अवेलेबिलिटी आहे. अवेलेबिलिटी नसली तर आपल्याला ती अवेलेबिलिटी फुलफिल करण्यासाठी काय करायला हवं. That is what we need to understand. And as a human resource manager, macro HRP would tell you that this is what I want, this is what I need to get it, and this is the place where I can get it. I need to tell तिथून मी त्याची युटिलिटी आणतो. जसं आयटी रिव्होल्युशन मध्ये जर बघितलं आयटी प्रोफेशनलची आजही खूप गरज आहे. Clear nahi, that is what happens with respect to the macro HRP question. Availability of skills identify करून म्हणजेच काय macro HRP ला what does it require? It will require close interaction between certain bodies. Who are those bodies? There has to be a close interaction between government, industry and education policy holders of the country so that these people come together, work together, and they are in a position to meet the rapidly changing needs of the industry. गव्हर्नमेंटने त्याच्यासाठी भरपूर काही प्रपोज केलं. आता नॅशनल एज्युकेशन पॉलिसी घेऊन आलेत. गव्हर्नमेंट इज थिंकिंग टू सेट अप अ वर्कर्स टेक्निकल युनिव्हर्सिटी. व्हॉट इज द एम ऑफ दिस टेक्निकल युनिव्हर्सिटी? गव्हर्नमेंट करायचा प्रयत्न करते. वर्कर्स टेक्निकल युनिव्हर्सिटी जर क्रिएट केली तर इट विल ट्राय टू सी दॅट इट विल एन्श्योर दॅट 400 million strong worker population is created, of which 98% of them are going to take care of the unorganized sector. आणि अनऑर्गनाइज सेक्टर मधले जी लोक आहेत त्यांना तुम्ही अपस्किल करा. University will be created to upskill them. If we upgrade them, dear students, if we can do this, if we can make workforce available which is having very good skill set, we can create competition to China, Japan, US and Mexico, and we can create a global competitiveness. That is what we need to understand. This is how government also is trying to find out. हो गॅप आहे मान्य आहे, मग तो गॅप मिनिमाइज कसा करायचा? ट्रेनिंग्स देऊन करायचा का युनिव्हर्सिटी सेटअप करून करायचा कसा? दॅट इज व्हॉट वी नीड टू आयडेंटिफाय अँड अंडरस्टँड. दॅट इज व्हॉट इज कॉल्ड ॲज मॅक्रो HRP. एक अजून एक एक्झाम्पल तुम्हाला मी देतो. आयटीचं जसं सांगितलं, फॅशन डिझायनिंगचं सांगितलं, स्टील सेक्टर टू. स्टील सेक्टर सुद्धा देर वॉज अन अँटिसिपेशन ऑफ ह्यूज डिमांड सप्लाय गॅप. इंडियन स्टील सेक्टर इन इंडिया रिक्वायरमेंट आजच्या घडीला खूप जास्त रिक्वायरमेंट होती ना. इट इज हॅव्हिंग अ प्रोडक्शन कॅपॅसिटी ऑफ 68 million tons and it is supposed to have 75 million tons in the years to come. 2030-40 ला 70 million tons प्रोडक्शन स्टीलचं लागणार आहे. तेच प्रोडक्शन करण्यासाठी आपल्याला स्किल्ड आणि सेमी स्किल्ड वर्कर्स दोघांची रिक्वायरमेंट असणार आहे. In order to meet this growing human requirement, what was done by the government? Ministry of Steel was planning to execute or bring existing steel research and training institutes under one umbrella and it will try to fund that particular organization so that development activities in the steel sector takes place. Workers are created so that workers are made available for the steel sector. एक umbrella create करा, त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्ही त्यांना train करा. Macro HRP is a very big try to find out that how this gap can be minimized is what we can understand as macro HRP. Let us try to look into the second definition now. What it says? Micro HRP. Look at this word. Micro HRP काय करते? It is the process for, look at the difference now. It is he macro म्हणजे national आणि global level ला country मध्ये. And what is this micro HRP? It is a process of forecasting demand for and supply of human resource. It is for a specific organization. See the difference. National and global level. भारतात काय requirement असेल, त्याच्यानंतर TCS ची काय requirement असेल, Infosys ची काय requirement असेल. If I am trying to forecast demand and supply of human resource for Tata consultancy services is called as micro HRP. When I'm trying to have an assessment and forecast for the demand for availability of skill for entire IT industry, entire steel industry, entire fashion design industry, त्याला मी macro म्हणतो आणि ह्याला मी micro HRP म्हणतो. Let us try to understand. When an IT firm raises wages to counter attrition, or when it shortlists students in their second year of college for future employment, it is engaging in HRP, and that is what is called as micro HRP. Difference बघा. मी गॅप आयडेंटिफाय केला, मला लोक हवी आहेत 4 वर्षानंतर, मग मी आजच काय केलं, एक तर मी पेमेंट चांगले करून घेतले, पेमेंट खूप वेजेस खूप चांगले करून घेतले, ज्याच्याने चांगली लोक माझ्या ऑर्गनायझेशन मध्ये यायला लागले. पॉइंट नंबर 1. Point number 2, second option I had was, I tried to get a connection developed with the educational institute who train those specific people, आणि मी त्यांना कॉलेजमध्ये जाऊन ट्रेनिंग द्यायला चालू केलं आणि तिथूनच मी रिक्रुटमेंट करायला लागलो. त्याला काय म्हणतो आपण? दॅट इज व्हॉट इज कॉल्ड ॲज मायक्रो HRP. समर इंटर्नशिपचं उदाहरण घ्या. ज्या इन्स्टिट्यूट बरोबर मी टायअप केलंय त्या स्टुडंटला मी माझ्याच ऑर्गनायझेशन मध्ये 6 महिन्याचं इंटर्नशिप देतो. व्हॉट आय एम गोइंग टू डू? आय एम ट्राइंग टू सी दॅट those students get industry ready and are ready to join the workforce immediately after graduating. See the win-win situation. माझ्या ऑर्गनायझेशनची रिक्वायरमेंट अशी आहे 4 वर्षांनी, मी 4 वर्षानंतरची रिक्वायरमेंट आज आयडेंटिफाय केली, त्या इन्स्टिट्यूट बरोबर टायअप केलं, तिथे मुलांना ट्रेन केलं, तिथून मुलांना इंटर्नशिपला घेऊन गेलो. इंटर्नशिप झाल्यानंतर जी मुलं ग्रॅज्युएट झाले त्यांना इमिजिएटली माझ्या ऑर्गनायझेशन मध्ये गेलं. वाय आय डिड दॅट? आय ट्राय टू डू दॅट because I was trying to manage the projected demand supply gap. Let us try to understand one. एक Genpact नावाची कंपनी, ह्या कंपनीने, दिस कंपनी इज नोन फॉर बिझनेस अँड टेक्नॉलॉजी सर्व्हिसेस. ह्या कंपनीने, जेनपॅक्टने एक ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम चालू केला. त्या ट्रेनिंगचं नाव त्यांनी जेनपॅक्ट, दे कॉल्ड दॅट ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम ॲज अन असोसिएट ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम, and that training program is offered by Hyderabad Osmania University. आता what is this training program? Osmania Hyderabad University बरोबर टायअप केलाय. Under this initiatives, students are allowed to work while they are studying for the bachelor's degree in commerce at Osmania University. Once they complete their degree, 3 वर्ष पूर्ण झाले, तर 3 वर्षानंतर ज्या स्टुडंट्सनी त्यांच्या बरोबर त्यांना ऑनबोर्ड केलेलं आहे ते सगळ्या स्टुडंट्सला फुल टाइम एम्प्लॉयमेंट त्या कंपनीमध्ये मिळते. what is this? This shows a clear picture that industries are increasingly looking upon educational institutions to meet their demand. First and foremost, ते सगळ्यात पहिल्यांदी इन्स्टिट्यूट बरोबर टायअप करायचा प्रयत्न करतात. कदाचित इन्स्टिट्यूट बरोबर टायअप झाला तर त्यांचा जो प्रॉब्लेम आहे दॅट कॅन बी टेकन केअर ऑफ. दॅट इज व्हॉट इज कॉल्ड एज मायक्रो HRP. Am I with you? Let us try to understand the difference. Macro, assessing and forecasting the demand for and availability of skill at national or global level. Macro. जर असेसमेंट केली आणि त्या हिशोबाने मी फोरकास्टिंग करायचा प्रयत्न wherein that gap between taken care of is what we need to look into the macro HRP. I suppose each one of you would have understood what is the difference between macro HRP and what is the difference between micro HRP. So let us move a step forward and try to understand the next point of discussion is, so what are the objectives of HRP? Let us try to look into one by one. There are 5 objectives of our interest. You'd agree that human resource planning will serve very important purposes for a firm's strategic human resource management. These 5 objectives of HRP were given by Mello. It was in the year 2003. Mello identified that this could be the objectives of HRP. First objective of discussion is to prevent overstaffing and understaffing. Look at the 2 important words. ओव्हरस्टाफिंग अँड अंडरस्टाफिंग. रिक्वायरमेंट नसली आणि लोक जास्त झाली तर त्याला स्टाफिंग म्हणतो. व्हॉट डू यू मीन बाय अंडरस्टाफिंग? रिक्वायरमेंट इज 100 and I have only 50 people working, 50 human resource working. What is that? That is called as understaffing. That is what we need to understand. A firm that employs more worker than its need is inefficient. सरळ सरळ गणित आहे. तुम्हाला गरज 50 लोकांची आणि 150 लोक भरून ठेवले जस्ट फॉर द सेक यू आर गोइंग टू पुट देम, that is going to lead to inefficiency. Why? Because its fixed cost of employee and compensation will shoot up. स्वाभाविक आहे, खर्च त्यांच्यावर होतो, तो खर्च वाढतोच. मॅन्युफॅक्चरिंग फर्म मध्ये इट विल लीड टू, जर जास्त लोक मॅन्युफॅक्चरिंग फर्म मध्ये घेतले त्यांच्याकडनं काम काढून घेतलं तर नुकसान काय होतं? इट विल लीड टू सरप्लस प्रोडक्शन. It will lead to a high level of inventory, and as the firm may not be able to market the entire stock, then it is going to create a problem for the manufacturing unit. त्याच्या एक्झॅक्टली अपोजिट सुद्धा. ओव्हर स्टाफिंग नाही केलं, आता having fewer employees than required is called as understaffing. And understaffing जर झालं तर it will always lead to an organizational loss. The loss stems largely from inability of the firm to meet the customer's demand. कारण की लोक कमी असल्यावर तुम्ही कस्टमरची डिमांड फुलफिल करू शकत नाही. What does it means? It means both. That is, both existing and future customer may टर्न टू कॉम्पिटिटर्स. जर लोक कमी ठेवली, सर्व्हिस दिली गेली नाही तर तो व्यक्ती दुसऱ्या कॉम्पिटिटर कडे जाईल. दॅट इज वाय human resource planning helps to ensure efficiency and timely response to the customer's needs and obviates the need to dismiss employees suddenly. We should have optimum number of staff. Overstaffing is dangerous, understaffing is dangerous. So HRP will play a very important role in identification that when it could lead to overstaffing and when it could lead to understaffing. म्हणजे मी जर एक्झॅक्ट किंवा प्रिसाइज नंबर देऊ शकलो तर डेफिनेटली मी सांगू शकतो की मला किती लोक हवी आहेत आणि आता ऑर्गनायझेशन मध्ये किती लोक आहेत किंवा किती कमी आहेत आणि किती जास्त. दॅट इज व्हॉट HRP वुड हेल्प मी टू डू. लेट अस लुक ॲट द सेकंड ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह नाउ. HRP will help us to ensure the employee availability. Now I say it would be a fallacy on the part of organization to assume that skilled workers are freely available in the labor market. जब आपको चाहिए तब स्किल्ड वर्कर अवेलेबल है, ये एक गलत फहमी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ने पाल रखी है. So what will this human resource planning do? Human resource planning ensures that organization has right number of employees with right skills in the right place at the right time. Very good words used. Just say organization right number. जेवढी लोक हवी आहेत तेवढी आहेत, त्यांच्याकडे पाहिजे तो स्किल सेट आहे आणि त्यांना ज्या जागेवर जिथं त्यांनी काम करायला हवं तिथं मी व्यवस्थित त्यांना प्लेस केलंय आणि जेव्हा प्लेस केलेलं आहे तेव्हा तिथं त्यांची गरज होती. दॅट इज राईट टाइम. व्हॉट डज दिस गिव्ह अ मेसेज टू अस? ॲज अन HR, you have a great responsibility to anticipate the kind of employees you will require in terms of skills, in terms of competencies, in terms of characteristics. As an HR manager, you need to find out that, project it, and proactively try to provide organizations with people of right skills, competencies, and characteristics. So if you look at the recruiting efforts of the firm, must ensure that persons are properly hired, they are properly trained, and moreover they should be made ready, or they should be in the form ready by which they can give services to the task for which they are appointed. So employee availability again is ensured through a human resource planning. Similarly, the third objective of HRP is to ensure that organization is responsive to the environmental changes. As I said you, आपण याच्या आधीच्या सेशनला बघितलं की हे 7 फॅक्टर्स नी HRPचं महत्व वाढवलंय. म्हणजेच काय, जर मला त्या फॅक्टर्सचे चेंजेस अँटिसिपेट करता आले नाही तर मी HR प्लॅनिंगला व्यवस्थित इनपुट देऊ शकत नाही. Let us put that also in an example. Just for an example, the economy may grow or may stagnate. Compensation may increase or decrease. Government regulations may change. We need to understand if this all is going to change, what could be the impact of this change on my organization. That is why I need to understand that whenever there is a change in technology, I need to understand whether that impact of change in technology is going to change my workplace combination. Human resource planning will help organization to respond to changes whenever it takes place. That is again very good objective which HRP fulfills. ऑर्गनायझेशन मध्ये चेंज झालं तर त्या हिशोबाने तुम्हाला अडॅप्ट करावं लागतील, तुम्हाला रिस्पॉन्स द्यावा लागतील. दॅट कॅन बी इफेक्टिव्हली कॅरीड आउट ओनली इफ इट इज थ्रू अन इफेक्टिव्ह ह्युमन रिसोर्स प्लॅनिंग. फोर्थ ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह, HRP provides direction to all HR activities. Why? I say this statement because human resource planning will ensure that all the other activities, what are all other activities? Like selection, training, performance appraisal, rewards are integrated. HRP may suggest that certain number of employees are needed to be trained in a particular area. The training goals should be incorporated into performance measurement of these employees, so that this will play a very important role in directing all the HR activities which are aligned to strategy, which will help us to achieve our vision or mission. That is what we need to look into. And the last objective which we try to put across is it will help us build line and staff partnership. Though HRP जर आपण म्हटलं कोण इनिशिएट करतं, HR मॅनेजर करतं, पण HRP ज्यावेळेस इम्प्लिमेंट करायची वेळ येते किंवा डेव्हलप करायची वेळ येते, that time you will require to have cooperation of all the managers. A departmental head is in best position to know what is an HR requirement of the department. Therefore, there has to be a very good communication between line and staff managers for success of HRP efforts. With this, I just conclude the first part. I will continue in the next session. We try to understand what is macro HRP. We try to look into what is micro HRP, and we also try to understand what are the objectives of HRP. That is what we need to look into.